Hi, aloha, and welcome to the That's Not Normal podcast. My name is Jennifer O'Neill.
And I'm Michelle Schneider, giving you a friendly reminder that if you like today's topic, please give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't already.
Yes, that's very important, or you will not hear our other That's Not Normal topics. So there's that.
Yes.
Um, I wanted to talk about a topic that I get asked about a lot. I think that it would be helpful to kind of go through it. And I know that you have some questions based upon this because it's been like occupying your mental space. Um, and it's the subject about why are we here? Basically, what's the purpose of us being here? What's the purpose of all of this, our life and all the things? And I notice that if people are actually really happy, and this is going to matter, this part of this topic, when people are really happy and things are going really well, nobody ever asks that question. That's not something that comes upon your radar. When you feel like you're struggling, you have a catalyst that you're learning from in your life, you are dealing with some emotional stuff, you're dealing with physical issues. If there's a point in your life where things don't feel awesome, or it goes on for a long period of time where like life is not feeling enjoyable anymore, you start to question these things. What's the purpose? Why am I even here? Well, I think that even just talking about what I just said is very important. And I'm going to circle back to that in a second. Let's just really get to the nook and cranny of it right off the bat. But then let's pick it apart and dissect it a little bit so that it makes more sense to everybody's life as they're living it at this current point in time. So the whole entire point of why we're here in the first place, why we're born, individual souls and all of that, is to expand consciousness. That's the whole point of living out every lifetime, of being part of a greater whole. And this gets into some deep stuff too, because we are all interconnected. It doesn't matter what term you would like to use, God, higher consciousness, um, uh, Christ consciousness, Buddha, whatever. The higher frequency realm, the spirit realm, all of that is interconnected. And when it comes to any higher consciousness subject or talk, or if you want to say it's a person, when it's really not a person, it's an energy. When we get into higher consciousness talk, we are all part of that. So, how I explain that to people is we are like little tentacles or little legs off of higher consciousness. So, we are an aspect of it. It is part of us. We are part of them. It's how we're made, created, and why we exist.
It
So,
reminds me of the term holon. Do you know the term holon?
no,
HOLON. So, imagine like a pie, and if you cut a piece of pie, it's still pie. It's all made of
right,
the same stuff, but it's
right.
just more of like a separated piece. So,
Well, and kind of how I look at it, which is a little bit different, is everybody gets the part about where we have a body and then we have all these cells. Like all these little cells within our body makes up our skin, makes up our organs. And the way that I think that it's easier for people to get a frame of reference is imagine like the body being consciousness as a whole, and all of us as individuals are the little cells. So
yeah.
we are a part of it. And we affect one another and we need each other to exist. So greater consciousness as a whole can't exist individually from us, and we can't exist individually from it. So we need to be together to create the greater consciousness. So that's where that stems from to begin with. So we are an extension of that. Our bodies, our soul, is an extension of the higher consciousness. That's why you can access higher consciousness through your own, meditation, and through what I call the God Center. That's how you reach that. And then through other techniques of practice, psychic practice, and channeling abilities and things like that, we have absolutely have access to that aspect of who we are. And then when we're incarnated and we come down, the whole point of expanding consciousness is expansion. Expansion's done through passion, love, creativity, things of that nature. So think of it like anything joyful or purposeful or meaningful, things that just make your heart blow up and just feel amazing, and gratitude and all that. That feeling, if you're very grateful for something, you can feel the expansion in your chest. Your heart just warms. You can just feel like just such an expansiveness. That's exactly what's happening. There is an expansiveness of energy that then projects from you and manifests into expansion, into reaching further areas of what you can reach energetically, but it also amplifies your energy, creating a more expansive consciousness. So we are creating a more expansive consciousness space individually every single time that we experience joy, gratitude, passion, things of that nature. Therefore, if we do that on an individual level, it also expands consciousness as a whole within the whole body. So if you as a cell or a part of that expands consciousness and you amplify your energy, the whole body, the whole consciousness benefits from that. And we do that through learning and growth and gratitude and happiness and all the wonderful feelings. And that's why it's important for us to then come down and then work with this energy. Which brings me back to the part about, if you are happy and you are in that growth stage, that expansion stage of your life, and you may go through it many times in your lifetime, many times in a daytime, in like one day, you're going to consciously be or constantly be expanding and expanding. But there might be some times where you're not feeling so great, and then there's going to be other days where you're expanding your consciousness, and that energy, amplifying it. So those who are doing it more consistently, part of the joy of expanding consciousness is being able to align with that frequency. When you start aligning with the frequency of joy and love, there's a very euphoric sensation that comes with that frequency. And it feels good and it feels healthy and it feels amazing. And that's part of why we're working to expand consciousness as a whole. But your job is just to expand it within your own, energetic centers and your own soul. It's not to expand everybody else's, it's only yours. They have to manage their own situation, which then leads into what I tell people all the time, which is you can't manage somebody else's spiritual journey. It's never going to happen. You are not responsible for it. You can give guidance that might shift and change their perspective, and if they shift and change their own perspective, it might lead to different choices and possibly expansion or whatever. That's the only way that you might be able to um, have an impact on somebody else's journey. However, people tend to want to micromanage people's journeys to make
Mhm.
them feel better. And now we're getting into a whole nother can of worms that is not healthy and or possible, which leads to everybody being frustrated in the meantime. So with the idea of expansion being on your mind, you have to understand that the point is the experience of the frequency itself. It's to amplify, it's to be able to hold that frequency to the best of your ability. Because if you hold that frequency to the best of your ability, it then, like I said, it helps to expand consciousness as a whole, which is the whole point of our creation in the first place. It feels amazing. It feels wonderful. But I've never had anybody ask me that when they were feeling great. They only ask it when they're not feeling so great. So then they're like, okay, what's the point of this? Now, when you're not feeling so great and you're wondering what's the point of this, there's still lots of points to you being here and the growth aspect and all of that. When you're not feeling so great, you're usually going through something called a catalyst. And that catalyst is typically basically hurdles or potholes that you've written into your chart before you were born. And we need those for growth and expansion. It's almost like humans and souls do, especially in the 3D realm and the when you're here on Earth, there needs to be a balance of light and dark and good and bad in essence to create some sort of drive sometimes or appreciation. And that will form from having a situation that didn't feel so good, you observing and being self aware enough to figure out where am I supposed to grow from this or what can I do differently? And then acting upon that to change situational environments or experiences or relationships in your life moving forward. And that allows you to start heading the right direction towards gratitude and expansion and learning. But you need a catalyst many times to learn, then shift, then act upon. So you learn from experience, didn't like this, you shift your perspective, gain more knowledge, and then you change things when you act upon them moving forward, if that makes sense. Right?
Yeah, and I would say when you say catalyst, I don't think it always has to be extreme either. And it's like I
No.
find
Mm-mm.
myself asking this a lot where it's just like, what's the point of all this again? But like not in like a super sad girl way where it's like, are you okay? Because it's like I've been on that side of the coin where I've been massively depressed and like just
Right.
like, why am I here? What is the point? But I find myself asking that a lot more these days just because I feel so frustrated with like the
Well, that's
system
what I
that's
was going to
society.
say. You're still coming from a place of lack of something.
Yeah.
So if you're asking yourself this typically at any point in time, usually, unless you're just sitting around with a group of friends and having fun and really working on expansion, because some people do that as well. They're just very just intrigued by the whole concept and the conversation, and they're just having discussions about it. And that also creates expansion and growth, but you're working from a lack of in some areas. Like, for instance, you work a lot,
Yeah.
you tend to overwork.
Yeah.
A lot of us are in that same boat. There are aspects of your life where you had a companion for a long time and you don't currently have one, so you're navigating that aspect of your life as well. And that comes from places where maybe sometimes we get in our head and we start thinking about, well, I felt as if I would be in this place at this point in my life. And I think that a lot of people out there probably listening though do feel like at this point in your life you might have been in a different spot. You might be better off financially, for instance. You might be loving your job instead of not loving your job. You might be working less. You might be traveling more. You might have had all of these thoughts in your head that I assumed by this time in my life these things would be different for me. And those always stem from a place of frustration and burnout and energetic imbalance, really.
Yeah.
Because energetic imbalance is when you start to get frustrated and tired and things, you don't feel charged. You're not feeling enough joy. You are not allowing yourself enough time to recoup and recover. And that causes you to then go, I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling tired. And why is my picture like this? Okay. And so then that would be also a catalyst. So while you're talking about something that I think was real smart, which is they don't have to be a major catalyst. It could be something far as frustration, or something where you're just feeling overworked, you're feeling um, burnout. It can be something just like that. But if we are experiencing any of the low vibration frequency feelings, like we were just talking about, we need to use anything that doesn't make us feel great. I would suggest using that to help catapult you in another direction. It's very well known, especially in quantum physics, that your outside environment reflects your inside environment. It's something that I actually find very fascinating with people in general. And I use this myself. It's not that any of us are immune to it. I actually use this technique myself. When I'm out and about, I don't even need to be at like a social gathering. I could be walking through the mall. I could just meet somebody. I'm so aware of people's outside environment being a reflection of their inside environment. You can tell right off the bat by somebody's energy that they're projecting, the perspective that they have, how that they're taking care of themselves. Like, are they wearing sweatpants and their hair needs brush? Are they dressed to the nines? You can tell a lot by the energetic perception, by the physical environment, by the emotional environment that they project, what's going on the inside. Like, it's literally an exact mirror of what's going on the inside. So for those who want to be more self-aware, you want to utilize that. There's going to be times where you just want to be in sweatpants and sit on the couch and you don't want to talk to anybody, especially when it gets to the cold winter months. That's not a bad thing. I'm not saying dressing in sweatpants is a bad thing. You may need rest and recovery at that time. And when it comes to your energetic environment, you only have so much energy. And one of the things that I've really been a lot more aware of since I started doing the energetic analysis stuff is people's energy reserve and how much they push themselves to where they're depleting their energy so badly that their immune system's down, their ability to heal is down, your emotional ability to recover from situations is not optimal. There's so many things in your physical body and your emotional body and your energetic state when it comes to working with manifestation, universal laws, that are affected by burnout and working too hard and not taking time to recover that energy. So we will want to use self-awareness when we're talking about that aspect, so we can dissect where we are personally at. Are you just mentally tired today? If you are, that means you need to take pause for a second and start going a little bit backwards and going, number one, where did this come from? Has it been going on for weeks, months, a day? Where does it stem from? And how do I change it soon? Like, what can I do to shift this mental burnout? And I can't does not exist for, like, shifting your perspective or making changes in your life that are reasonable. I can't can apply to things like I can't necessarily afford a Lamborghini right now, or I cannot live in a mansion. Like, those are, I can't goes with that for most people. I can get that, that can align with that. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've been told somebody can't shift an emotional state, a perspective, or a work situation, and they are stuck there. So they are like, this is just my life. I'm stuck here. You're never stuck there, not even in a work situation. You need to look for other avenues if you are being that badly affected by your workplace. You need to look. You don't know that there's not other options out there, but I can't just it just is an excuse. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just that's all it is. There's there's nothing I can't. You manage, you are the CEO of your life. You know, nobody upstairs is telling you you can't do these things. You're just going, I won't.
Yeah.
And I really would like, if you're listening and you find yourself going, well, that's all good and well, but I'm very burnt out, but I can't shift my job. I want you to reword that to I won't, and then find out why.
Yeah, because
Why
when you're
won't
not
you?
changing, you're choosing, so it's
Yeah, if you're not changing, you're choosing 100%. And there are things that we need to learn about ourselves when it comes to that. We need to learn a different way. We need to learn how to grow from these experiences. We need to learn how to do things different. We need to learn how to work with universal laws. We need to learn that nothing's stagnant. Energy is moving all the time, whether it's in your physical body, your emotional being, all of the things, your spiritual body, whether it's your physical environment. Energy does not stay stagnant. But oftentimes I find that you are. People are just staying stagnant. And what happens when you try to stay stagnant against energetic movement is it starts to become very uncomfortable. You start to feel aches and pains. You start emotionally feeling frustrated. You start feeling anxious. There needs to be shifting consistently in your life to match energetic movement. And unless you're vibrating on a frequency that is very high and you're in a very happy place, you're probably pushing against some of the energetic movement. You're probably just, nope, this is where I'm staying. This is what I'm doing. The people who are happy, they are a lot more flexible. They're a lot more flexible in their perspective. They're a lot more curious to where this road's going to lead and lead to, where that road's going to lead to. They have a curiosity that just amplifies expansion. They just want to see something different. They want to see something that maybe they haven't seen before. They're not as uncomfortable with unfamiliar territory. They're excited by unfamiliar territory because they know that the familiar territory they're already familiar with. And there is a lot more to life in unfamiliar territory that you might give a lot of thought to. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Yeah. So we have personal expansion that then creates a ripple effect into consciousness as a whole. And we are meant to find a higher frequency. We are meant to shift our perspective. We are meant to experience joy and happiness. We just tend to be very stubborn and not do that. We tend to live a very 3D lifestyle, I would say. So, you wanted to talk about past lives as well?
Yeah, so I feel like I've learned a lot recently of just like how this incarnation can affect another incarnation. And I like to say it that way just because it's like time, everything is happening at once.
Mhm,
And I don't really necessarily like the term past, but I understand it for context of the conversation.
mhm.
But, if we are making changes in this lifetime, then does it affect our other incarnations? And
As
how
far as moving forward?
yeah, like expanding consciousness. Like if we're doing things to expand in this
Yes.
lifetime,
If
what
you
how's
start making changes now, it absolutely changes expanding consciousness moving forward. It changes the trajectory of what your life and the next life and things are going to look like from here. We have now tuned into a different frequency on our Akashic records, and we're taking a different lane. So it absolutely can affect things moving forward. I don't think a lot of people go that deep into it
oh, I
because
like
they're
to go deep.
so concerned about what's happening with their life right now. So I would highly suggest that most people self navigate where they're at this moment in time and understand that if you're frustrated or having issues, there's something that you need to take a look at within your life right now. There's a decision, there's an experience, there's a perception that's not balanced for you. And you need to figure out how to balance that better. And when you're experiencing frustration and things of that nature, I think that a lot of people try to wait it out. I really do. I think that I've seen too many people just try to, I'll just wait. I'll wait 6 months, I'll wait a year, I'll wait a couple of years, but I'm going to wait it out and things have got to get better. Well, I like the things have got to get better attitude. I like that aspect of it. But like, what are we waiting for? What are you waiting for? Like, you have to move the energy that then is attached to your life and your frequency that then has to go out there and shift your energetic environment to match the energy that you are moving. So there has to be movement from your energetic body, from your frequency. You have to move something internal to affect the external. So if you feel frustrated and you're waiting, you're not moving anything. You're staying stuck and you're continuously building your same energetic environment like Groundhog Day. It's sort of mind blowing how many people I've done psychic readings for that have come to me with an issue, something that they're not feeling excited about, something that causes them worry or concern or whatever. And they basically say, how's this going to look in the future? And it's so interesting that the majority of those people, of course, this is how it's going to look in the future. What you're experiencing now is not shifting and changing. This is, you already know what the future is going to look like because you're not shifting or changing anything. And they have this realization of a couple of different things. One, like, yeah, I figured, like this letdown situation. And then some of them are just like, okay, well, I guess that's what we're going to keep doing. But I will then ask them, I mean, is this how you want it to look? Because we do have different avenues on the Akashic records. We have different dimensional spaces, layers in there that we can shift how things are going to look. That's why, from a psychic perspective, we read you from where you're at today. If you start making choices and extreme choices, you're going to take a different path on your Akashic record. And here's another probable outcome. So when I do readings for people, I always give them another probable outcome that I can see on their Akashic record. I will be like, here's where you're going. This is what you're going to experience. And then, yeah, okay. However, if you make a change sooner, XYZ, do this, do that, explore this area, here's where that looks like that's going to head. And they're like, wow, okay. That gives them some type of drive, I think, to shift things in their life. But you really shouldn't need a psychic to help you with that drive. The mental and emotional aspect of feeling frustration and anger and all of that, or just feeling depressed, should be the drive enough. But nobody seems to be able to uh, have that be a catalyst, because it feels from a young age that we've all been trained to think that we can handle those emotions and those emotions don't do any damage, that it's an adult emotion to experience anxiety, depression, and overwhelm. And that's just what happens when you gain more responsibility in your life. Well, anxiety, overwhelm, and depression are extremely damaging. They don't not hold weight. They're very dangerous moving forward. They're damaging to the body physically. They're damaging to the spirit. They're damaging to your energetic system, which connects the body and the spirit. It's a big problem. So then what happens is if we ignore that for a long time, thinking, oh, we're supposed to live that way, we're supposed to be able to manage those emotions, everybody experiences them. And then you have validation that everybody experiences them because most of the people in your life will typically fall within the same category. So it seems quote unquote normal when that's not normal. Okay. That's not how we're supposed to live. Um, the only way that we start paying attention to it where it seems important is then the body starts to go, all right, you've ignored the emotional aspect, the energetic aspect long enough. We are now going to malfunction because you're giving us nothing to work with here. And because you're feeding us these toxic energy emotions, because the toxicity that's going into the body energetically is not able to heal the body, it's going to cause a malfunction within the body. And then everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is very, very important. My health is having an issue. Like, I need to have this looked at or this managed. Then it's a big deal.
Yeah. Can I rewind a little bit?
I would
I feel like this could go down a rabbit hole, but if you wanna save this for another podcast at some point, please let me know. But you were talking about doing psychic readings and sort of like telling people from where, possibilities from where they are at. And it's just like, is there a point where getting a psychic reading can sort of actually have a negative effect? I know if people latch on to like, "Oh, that's my fate. This is it. I guess I can't really change." It's just like, because I often question too of like, is getting psychic readings, do you are they helpful or are they hurtful? Like, can they
depends on the psychic and it depends on the person.
yeah,
So I think that they can be both. They should be incredibly helpful. You should leave a psychic reading feeling empowered and have gained some clarity, and you should have a very feel good moment from having a psychic reading because psychic guidance can be incredibly helpful because we can see probable outcomes. And then our job is to then say, okay, based on this probable outcome of if you make this choice or this choice, here's what that's going to look like for you. And we can also see hiccups that we can help you navigate, or we can say, there might be a hiccup here, but we can look past that. We have the ability to look past it and find the light of the end of the tunnel, the reason that you might have the catalyst and how you're going to navigate and things will be okay. That's a good psychic reader. And that's why I always tell people all the time, don't just get read by anybody because there are many readers that are just not good readers out there. And that's why I work with a certification program and I certify my students and the people who I um, feel like can I'm putting my stamp of approval. I am working on my own certifications to put certified readers out into the world. A lot of people, they don't go through the classes, they don't go through the training, they don't have mentors, or they have mentors that maybe have no business mentoring. And if your reading feels negative in any way, that's a problem. And the issue with that is it doesn't matter if it's a terrible psychic reading. I've seen people that just they hold on to that information like it's just written in stone
yeah,
just because that person says that they're psychic. And psychics are human. There is room for error. And I tell all my clients that if something does not resonate with you, you disregard it immediately. I mean, I don't have much of an issue with that. My accuracy rate's pretty high, but I want my clients to know there's a margin for human error. So if something doesn't feel good and they don't give you like, here's what you're going to learn from this and here's how you can navigate it, and things are going to be okay, because you can I've never had an experience with when I read somebody where it's just, oh my gosh, doom and gloom, and there's nothing good at all that's going to come out of this. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
The things that we can see, you can easily look for and tune into reasons behind that and how to navigate things in a positive way. And that's the information that then I pull from and provide to my clients. But there are some cultures and some readers that tend to work with a more negative frequency, or they don't know how to properly translate what they're seeing. That's a huge problem. Huge, huge problem in the psychic world. They just don't know how to translate things properly. And so when they say things, it's not very helpful and it can be nerve wracking to whoever.
Yeah, and the reason I was just asking that was just because thinking about, we're talking about the reason we're here, and one of the reasons that I started getting psychic readings was because when you're struggling and you need a lifeline, you need
Mhm.
somebody to just like I need a higher power to tell me
Right.
and help me through this because it's like I can't figure this out on my own. And I think it's just important to talk about where it's like your future isn't set in stone and you shouldn't be latching on to these outcomes necessarily, but it's like you use it as guidance to help put you on
Well,
the path
I
to
think that there's all kinds of resources out there at this point in time. There's churches and faith-based things that people can get really good guidance from. There's, psychics out there that, again, get a reference, get like somebody has seen a testimonial or something. There are other resources when it comes to healthcare, like mental health care and things of that nature. We're provided a lot of resources right now. So if you are having the uh, unfortunate task of not being able to manage things on your own, you should be able to find resources. There should be an abundance of resources at your fingertips, but you have to take the action. They're not going to come to you. You know, I'm
yeah.
going to be like, "Hey, I'm psychic, and I know you're having a hard time." Well, I mean that's not true because I do that to my friends and family, but unless you're in my inner circle, I probably don't have your phone number. I'm probably not going to have it. So there's that.
Yeah.
Anyways, so hopefully that you found this helpful. That is why that we're here. We're learning to expand our consciousness. We are expanding as a greater whole. We are supposed to be experiencing expansive energy, which is coming from the heart center, which is gratitude and joy and happiness and fulfillment and passion and purpose. That's what we are meant to do. We're meant to explore that to the ends of the earth. We're meant to um, amplify that energy and, continue to amplify that. Like, that's what we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to take a left turn and just be stuck at a job that we hate, in a situation that we hate, in um, a relationship that we hate. That's not why we're here. You're defeating the point. It's defeating the purpose of why we're here if you are miserable and frustrated.
But life's not meant to be easy either, I would assume, because without the challenges, then how do you grow? Right?
Well, I don't think it's meant to be easy, but I'm not talking about the ones that where there's potholes. I'm talking about consistently staying in chronic anxiety, chronic frustration. Like,
Yeah.
not being able to navigate away from that, then we need to bring in the self-awareness aspect and go, what are we doing? What's happening? How am I contributing to this? What am I staying stagnant about? What am I not seeing? What am I not shifting? So yes, we are going to have those are part of the catalyst, but how you recover from them should be fairly quickly. You should be training yourself to look for the lessons, training yourself to look for the value in a catalyst. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times that people have lost their job, and I've talked to them and I'm like, you were never supposed to stay there long term. This was going to cause you health issues if you stayed there. You were emotionally spent. You were burnt out. This was a toxic environment. And every time they're like, oh, yeah, yep, yep. But you would have never left. You would
Yeah.
have stayed there for 10 more years. Yeah, I would have. It's like, okay, so this is not a bad thing. It might seem like a bad thing for the minute, but like from my viewpoint, this is like awesome, but you weren't listening. So somebody had to intervene, spirit guides, whoever, and said, okay, she's not listening. He's not listening. We're going to have to throw a catalyst in here to get some sort of shift and change to get them moving into a new direction. So that's what I can see on a psychic level, but you can also train yourself to view life that way, you know? If there's a major shift and change that feels uncomfortable, there was most likely a reason that had to happen in your life. And if you can't figure out what that is right now, just go back to time frames in your life that have passed that you had a huge instance with that felt extremely uncomfortable. And instead of revisiting the trauma aspect of it, ask yourself, what did I learn from that? What did I do differently from that day on? Because I would say that 90% of the people did something different or learned something as long as you ask yourself. You may not have ever asked yourself that before. As long as you ask yourself, then you should be able to find the gold in that. But most of us don't want to go back and revisit the trauma. And then they're just like,
Yeah.
oh God, I don't want to go back there. That was a horrible place.
It's so helpful though to reframe it because I do that with all my own stuff, and I don't feel like people
Hugely
do it
helpful.
enough because it's like, "Oh, yeah, all that crap that I went through," I was like, "Look how strong I am now." So, I
Right.
often will do that when it's just, like, reminding myself of like, "Oh, yeah, that's why."
But why I think is even the most helpful is when you're going through it at the current moment and you don't know what's around the corner, you should be able to have found moments in every one of those times that helped you be different, be better, or learn something from that you didn't usually notice until later, weeks later, months later, years later. But you did eventually. Or maybe you just did now because I'm telling you to do so, and then you go back and look. However, it is, but that helps you gain a different perspective of going through something now. You may not know what the catalyst is or the gold that you are supposed to learn from your current life experience or situation or relationship or whatever. You usually don't know during what the moment while it's happening. You usually don't have, you're not privy to that information. It usually takes being out of it or past it a little bit to go, oh, because there's more usually to come a little bit down the road from that situation or that experience. You just don't have the access at that moment in time, but everybody wants it instant gratification. That's how we roll. And the spirit world and universal laws is just not on that wavelength for those who are not high frequency aligned, not high frequently high frequency aligned. So unless you are high vibing most of the time, you're not going to get the instant gratification that you're looking for. That's something else.
Yeah.
All right. So hopefully you enjoyed this podcast and
If you have questions, you
yes.
can, drop them below, and, if you like today's topic, make sure that you like the video and subscribe if you haven't already.
Yes. And if you are in Rapid City, South Dakota, don't forget to come to the expo in March. If you are on my email list, or actually, if you're not on my email list, you will definitely want to get on that because I have a lot of stuff coming up. You will want to go to keysofspiritworld.com. Oh, I have that meditation on there. That's where you're gonna that's where you're gonna wanna go and get your chi meditation, download that and start expanding your energy. So if you're completely lost, that's actually a good place to start because that works with energy inside the body. But then you'll also learn about some up and coming things that I have going on. All right.
Mhm.
So until next time, have the most amazing day. Aloha. Bye.
No.